Uh, my father was Arthur Chun, who is the chair of the study commission. And this morning, while Shane has talked about the things that I do today and how we as Hawaiians must be ever vigilant and participate in what's happening, I'm going to tell a little of the background as to how the study commission came into being and why it was so critical to what happens to the creation of the park, and why it's so essential and critical that we continue. In 1971, 71, our governor was Governor Burns, and they began to talk about this area being the Gold Coast. So they opened Ka'ahumanu Highway. And when that happened, all the Hawaiians who lived here and knew about all of this area and how precious it is, all of Hawaii, but this area opened because of the road, and people could come down who were not Hawaiians and living and coming on the trails. Also at the time, they decided we needed to have a different harbor from Kailua. So they blasted out what is now Honokohau Harbor. So upset were the people, and my father, who was always aware of our being Hawaiians and what we needed to do. He would talk to the people of this area, and they would come to my aunt's house. And Ruby Keanaaina and the Keanaaina family, David Mauna Roy would come, and other Hawaiians, and they would talk about this area. My father was aware of the fact that Honokohau had been designated a historical landmark in 1960, which was very early, and bespoke of the significance of the settlement. This is what they called the people who were here, our ancients, the settlement at Honokohau. So we would all talk. Every morning we'd talk at breakfast. All the families would gather. Mauna and Ruby would come to afternoon, evening, and talk about this area. But he and I and my aunt and whoever from the family would be here, we'd talk at breakfast, and he'd say, "I'm going to go to Washington." And I'd go, "Okay." And he was retired military, so he'd go space available to DC, and that meant he was going to go talk with his friends Sparky Matsunaga, Dan Inouye, and Patsy Mink. They all were very much supportive of what happened and the progress and the steps that he took. But it was Patsy Mink, Congresswoman Patsy Mink, who actually laid out the strategy. They would talk, and she would say, and for those who don't know, she was very much a supporter of our Hawaiian rights that we have been denied, and she was always trying to find ways that we could preserve our culture and our historical sites and the meaning of them, which is that our cultural practices that we engaged in as our kupuna that I've just been talking and told you about, it is essential to do those cultural practices, which is what they're called now by a government entity. They'll say, "Do you practice your cultural practices?" And we say yes. And why? What we do here, fishing, making cordage, as Fred would talk about, olana, lauhala, all those things that went into daily life are cultural practices. So she said, when she heard the plea, what's happening, we need to save this area. They blasted out this Honokohau Harbor. It's affecting the rest of this area. What's happened because of the blasting is we're losing fresh water into the harbor. It continues today. They're talking about the Gold Coast. They want to build all these hotels. This is what the people were feeling, as Fred has said. These people and the residents here, they envision that what has happened just down the way there, just beyond Kaloko, is a private development, and they had to get an agreement to have this development at Kohanaiki. They had to put in a public park area. It took years and years and years and years to do, and now the public can access the the public area at Kohanaiki. But right up against this, our boundary here, is development. And everyone was worried about it. So he organized, and because people were so upset, hundreds of people came by the bus to protest the development of the harbor. Because then and now, people want to expand the harbor. It's already expanded about 3 times from the original size, but others who want development say, let's make it into a marina. Should that happen, this will be critically damaged. And we cannot allow it because of the pollution that will continue. The water will be polluted, it'll affect the water sources, and all you'll have is people coming in and enjoying, the marina effect, but it's not Hawaii.